understanding of how the court would interact in the real world. In the U.S., when I was a prosecutor, we had the benefit of 200 years of tradition of prosecuting. The cases that put me on a trajectory to come here were cases that I worked on in the Bronx and in Chinatown that were organized crime cases against violent gangs. Of course, when I was doing them, I thought they were the most complex cases you could ever have. But then when you reach the international level, you realize things can be quite a bit more complicated than that. In Uganda, you're being asked to help find a way to end the violence there and to bring accountability for the crimes. Yeah, it's very daunting.
En el 2004, Christine Chong y los primeros investigadores de la CPI llegaron al norte de Uganda. Su misión, investigar la devastadora guerra de 20 años entre el LRA y el gobierno de Uganda, e identificar a las víctimas que quedaron.
I've been to Uganda now, in the course of the investigation, 10 or 15 times. It's a difficult environment, but it's not impossible. So in that way, we were blessed, because even though there's a war going on, we were able to stay pretty secure, and our ability to keep our witnesses and potential witnesses secure was also pretty good.
Una situación abrumadora enfrentó a los investigadores de la CPI. Más de 1 millón de personas en el norte de Uganda fueron forzadas a evacuar sus aldeas e ir a campamentos de personas desplazadas internamente.
There are actually people, we came to the internally displaced persons camp as a result of the fight in between the Lord Resistance Army and the government. Other people came voluntarily, but the majority of the people were forced by the government for protection.
In the course of the investigation, it's critical to go there. You have to understand the culture, the environment, and you want to meet the people that are going to be your potential witnesses. It's a beautiful country with absolutely caring and open people. You can't imagine a place that deserves less to have the kind of victimization brought upon it than Uganda, because of this essentially big bandit gang. And it's frustrating. It feels like in this day and age there should be a way to end that.
Si el equipo de investigación lograra recolectar evidencia y encontrar testigos, tendría que ser en estos campamentos.
A lot of it is about erasing yourself and letting the stories and the accounts just come forward so that facts can be judged. So the investigation moved pretty rapidly.
Frente a un exceso de pistas, la corte se enfocó en crímenes como los ocurridos en el campamento de Pagak.
On May 16, 2004, the Lord Resistance Army came and attacked my camp.
chúng gan cái lòi cái anh đã có tan bữa tiêm đó có chết nổi đôi gạo và chết ra gam man mà gang cái là chắc cái đừng vậy cho nên cái nói vào nhiều đừng có mà cái đó man lo yo ni o kan ni man bur peñiri o to bur peñni jagan goy down
Bino teme kom chwara gi kom an gi kom la ten mi ngani cha ma gi goy chwara gi naho gi goy ajaka gi goy diewia da kwara por chunya lalo ne la ten no gi goy ri pa wie.
And you can see, but what you can see in the picture is, you know, the wounds are awful. The skulls are split open. And it's clearly an attack on civilians because there are women with babies.
an tam again lier chel beta ya pe yu ru ta ya ke yu o dio cha ko won chel kam o kam no lu ke dan ma chi tek dog kam mi do ta cha ko nya ma ta tem na bie le ngam do ta be ne cha we ka chi ke yu ti dong chu ma ga no ma ka cha chu ma kam ti na ten.
That day, in fact, if I really bring the picture of the dead persons, I can't really forget. I can't forget.
La corte no juzga a soldados rasos como los que atacaron el campamento de Pagak. La estrategia de la fiscalía es ir tras los verdaderos responsables, los comandantes que ordenaron el ataque.
What you have to do that's tricky here is you have to link these bodies lying on the ground and these women and children back to who's responsible for it. But in this investigation, it was relatively easy because so many people have seen and heard the orders that were being given by the top commanders of LRA.
I know who commanded this LRA to come and kill. Vincent Oti, being a rebel commander, wanted the Acholi community to support him in the fight against the Ugandan government. But having suffered, having seen what really could be as a result of the war, the Acholi community felt not to give support to him. So this really is what I feel really annoyed him and made him come to kill the innocent civilian population.
There are certain incidents on which we've chosen to focus that I think are signature crimes of the LRA, and we were able to establish links directly to the leadership for those crimes. Murder, abduction, sexual enslavement, rape, inducement of rape, attacks upon civilian populations that are either war crimes or crimes against humanity.
Tres años después de ser creada, la Corte emitió sus primeras órdenes de captura, pero pronto se dio cuenta que traer a los acusados a juicio en La Haya sería un enorme problema que resolver.
Yeah, arrest is always the biggest question. A lot of people really underestimate the LRA. They look at them as a ragtag group of fighters, but they're actually very well organized, and they know exactly what they're doing. If you underestimate them, you'll die.
Luis Moreno Ocampo, I have heard him as being one of the specialists in the ICC. If he was to come and meet me, I would ask him, the arrest warrant that the ICC has put in place, how can Luis Moreno get the top LRA commanders arrested? Do they have the capacity?
In my old job, when I issued a warrant or I got a judge to issue a warrant, there was a line on it that said 2, and then the 2 was either the NYPD or the FBI or the DEA, and it goes into the hands of an agency, a law enforcement agency, and then they're empowered to go out and arrest people. Here, when the judges issue an arrest warrant, we rely on a network of the states, the member states, the member countries, to go out and arrest the people named in the warrants.
La Corte Penal Internacional deriva su poder, financiación y autoridad a través del consenso de los Estados miembros. No tiene una fuerza policial para realizar arrestos.
The problem is, when you're a prosecutor in a national system, there is consensus on the law. There is still this idea to have a criminal, international criminal law is so new that there is not still consensus in the world, and that's why a prosecutor has a different role. We have to use our case to build consensus.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to address you to report on the activities of the Office of the Prosecutor. As you know, arrest warrants have been issued against LRA commander. They are charged with crimes against humanity and war crimes. In the past, Joseph Kony, LRA leader, has used negotiations to buy time, regroup, and attack again. Securing the arrest of the LRA commanders would prevent recurrent violence and provide justice to the victims. This is a core challenge facing the court and you as state parties.
La falta de apoyo internacional se hizo un problema creciente para la Corte. Los poderes principales, China, Rusia y Estados Unidos, no se habían sumado, y Estados Unidos se opuso.
Dear Mr. Secretary General, this is to inform you in connection with the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court that the United States does not intend to become a party to the treaty. Sincerely, John R. Bolton, May 6, 2002. The notion that somehow we're obliged to sign on to a treaty just because a lot of other people have done it, frankly, is ridiculous. If that's American exceptionalism, I'm an American exceptionalist.
La preocupación de Estados Unidos sobre limitaciones a su poder soberano creó tensión con la Corte desde su fundación en Roma.
Whether the ICC survives and flourishes depends in large measure on the United States. We should isolate and ignore the ICC. Tangible American interests are at risk. Our main concern should be for the President and other senior leaders responsible for our defense and foreign policy. I took it on myself to be one of my responsibilities because I felt it was so important to protect American citizens from being the subject of investigation or prosecution by this institution.
Thank you very much for appearing. Are Americans at danger from the ICC? Well, if in fact we have a government that does plot and plan crimes against humanity or war crimes, it's U.S. courts which have first take on that.
Under the complementarity principle, we'll look into this matter, we'll investigate it, we'll determine whether there's a basis for prosecution or not of these crimes.
When I was negotiating the treaty, that was in fact one of our victories. And yet, of course, the criticism has continued.
Specifically, I propose for the U.S. policy the 3 no's. No financial support, directly or indirectly, no collaboration, and no further negotiations with other governments to improve the statute. This approach is likely to maximize the chances that the ICC